Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Let's give a couple of minutes for people to connect. So, welcome to the third session of the Ibero-American Business Council webinar series. My name is Natalia Gonzalez Alarcón, and I'll be moderating this conversation today. So thank you for joining us. For giving you a bit of context, the Ibero-American Business Council for Ethics and AI is a collaborative initiative between UNESCO and some private companies operating in Latin America that are involving in the development and deployment of AI in different sectors. So the council aims to serve as a platform for companies to come together, exchange experience, and something that we're doing today actually, and promote some ethical practices within the AI industry. So currently the council is co-chaired by Microsoft and Telefonica, who will be part of our conversation today. So where we are going to talk today, we're going to talk about a topic that I think has been in the middle of, I think, almost every conversation in the past months, which is generative AI, and mainly as a consequence of the launch of the ChatGPT in November last year. So I think people, it's like talking about the power of ChatGPT and the generative AI, and they have multiple questions related to that. Some of them are more surprised and excited about it. Some of them are maybe even scared about it. So we have a lot of questions around this. So how this new technology can help us to solve some of the problems that we are facing right now, or how we can control that technology if it is that powerful as we think, or how we can avoid the potential risk that it might create. So we're going to focus on that and on those questions today, and like talking about what is this important, what generative AI it is a relevant topic to discuss with key actors such as Microsoft and Telefonica. And for UNESCO, it's also critical because as some of you might know, UNESCO launched its recommendation on ethics on artificial intelligence in November 2021, and it was adopted by all of its member states. So it aims to be a global standards that can leverage the positive impact of artificial intelligence, but also addressing some of their potential risks. So we will talk about during this conversation more about what is the role that the recommendation aims to have, and we'll talk about this in more detail. But it's good to have the private sector here to talk about how, since the private sector is leading this field and this like rapid evolving field of artificial intelligence, and in particular generative AI, it's a pleasure for me to introduce our exceptional panel today, and who will be talking about the challenges and opportunities that can be presented by generative AI. So let me start with Daniel. So Daniel Klotz from Microsoft leads the Sensitive Uses program in Microsoft Office of Responsible AI. And in that role, he leads the team responsible for reviewing and guiding engineer and sales teams for Microsoft's most complex AI systems. Prior to Microsoft, Daniel was a postdoctoral researcher at UC Berkeley School of Information, where he led the Algorithm Fairness and Opacity Working Group, which is a multidisciplinary collaboration between researchers from academia and industry working on ethics, on privacy, and social impacts of AI. Daniel holds a PhD in sociology from the UC Berkeley as well. So Daniel will be our first panelist, and let me also introduce Joaquina Salado, which is the head of AI ethics at Telefonica. And in this role, she implements the ethics by design approach across the areas where there is a development or use of artificial intelligence. And previously, Joaquina was the senior manager in the Chief Data Office area, leading the implementation of data culture transformation program across the whole Telefonica group to help become Telefonica AI and data-driven company. So she has a strong background in the European telecommunications sector with experience in different companies, and where she has held responsibility across Europe and some Latin American countries in different marketing and strategic roles. And last but not least, Ángel Melguizo, who is a regional advisor for UNESCO on artificial intelligence and ethics in Latin America. Ángel has more than 20 years of experience in both the public and private sectors, including being a vice president for external and regulatory affairs at AT&T in Latin America, and senior advisor at the Economic Bureau of the Spanish Prime Minister. He has participated in the reform of telecommunications and digital policy in countries across Latin America. And Ángel holds a PhD in economics from the University of Complutense in Madrid. So this panel looks exciting to me, and I think it will provide some valuable insights and some interesting perspective from different players in this conversation. So I'm happy to start the conversation with Daniel. If you want to start, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Natalia, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's so nice to join you, and thank you to UNESCO and the team and our partners at Telefonica for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here and not only speak to you about responsible AI and generative AI in this moment we're in about AI, but also learn from our other panelists and from you all listening here on the webinar. So as Natalia said, I work in the Office of Responsible AI at Microsoft, and I lead our sensitive uses program. And what is responsible AI at Microsoft? I'll start there, and then I want to abstract out a little bit about this generative AI moment I'm speaking about here. But responsible AI at Microsoft, as the developer and deployer of this technology, for the last 2017, we have been working on responsible AI at Microsoft, building out a governance and policy program to provide oversight for the development of AI systems. So I think this is not new for us at Microsoft in dealing with the sort of societal considerations and concerns and impacts of AI technologies. I think what is different here, obviously, is especially since November, December of last year with ChatGPT and the rise of generative AI with LLMs, is this is expanded out into the ethos of the general public in a way that we haven't seen before. It's exciting for me, having worked on this technology, and of course I want to acknowledge there are risks here that we all are talking about in societal conversations in the press. But there's a lot of opportunities here, I think, especially with generative AI. And so I want to speak about that first, and then get into a little bit. I thought it might be useful to speak about a few examples in Microsoft and how we do responsible AI for real applications of generative AI. So, in terms of the opportunities and the power of generative AI, just to go over a few example applications that excite me that I work on each day. Generative AI can do everything from summarize your inbox and generate emails or summaries of a meeting transcript, for example. We've doing some work in our M365 offerings through Teams and Outlook, et cetera, on some of those applications. Image and audio recognition, synthesis generation, advanced search capabilities with our generative AI applications in Bing Chat, for example. We've just seen a huge explosion of interest and really a lot of new innovative ways to do search for information and really sort of help learn to ask the right questions to drill down and do our research or do a web search. A few other applications, advanced analysis of data. Microsoft is heavy on enterprise offerings to large commercial customers. Just so many applications of ways to analyze data, generate insights, identify patterns in data. And I think for me personally, the most exciting thing, and that's so different here, is the democratization of the ability to do this work with AI, with these chatbots and LLMs and this text to whatever output you have, text to text, text to image, what have you, the ability to craft prompts and generate queries of powerful systems in a way that's using natural language and the way we'd speak to each other every day is something that I think is really different here and game changing, and is really allowed really anyone to, in a sense, program computer systems in a way. And I think that has implications for, of course, innovation, but also just the spread of technology and the access to technology throughout the world and out of the hands of technical experts who know how to do computer programming. And now you can create programs yourself with general natural language. So I think I've only got a little bit of time here. I'd love to dive into details about examples, but I thought it might be helpful to just talk about, okay, you say responsible AI, how do you develop and deploy these AI technologies responsibly, especially in the generative AI space? I think one important thing to note here is that there is no silver bullet, one solution to mitigate given risk. What's important is that we layer risk mitigations for development of these technologies at every layer of the stack. And that's done internally through internal governance and policy mechanisms here, for example, as a large technology provider at Microsoft internally. It's also done through regulation and external governance and controls by governments. And importantly, it's including civil society and just the general public stakeholders in these conversations so we can get feedback and learn along the way. And that's really important for the work that we do and the partnerships we have outside of the tech industry and with organizations like UNESCO and others to really hear those voices and develop this technology in a democratic way, so to speak. A few examples, though. Bing Chat I can go into is one example, and I'll put a link in the chat after I'm done speaking that really sort of gives you an idea of everything we do at each layer of the stack. Another one I wanted to speak to as well is our custom neural voice offering, which is a way for commercial enterprise customers to create synthetic voice technology. Now, obviously, there are risks when you think about synthetic speech of misinformation and that kind of thing. So how do we address that? And I'd say the other main risk here is for voice talent, voice actors, or those who are lending their voice, to make sure that they have appropriate consent and awareness of their voice being used for training. This technology here is something that we've offered for a few years, and we've really worked hard to make sure that these risks are mitigated and that those who are using it responsibly. And how do we do that? I'm going to go through a few ways. I think broadly, you want to think about a few different dimensions of how we do responsible AI for synthetic speech. One is know your customers, know who's using it. Two is know your use cases. And so we've developed an approach here that I'll go into in a second, where we are providing our customers with the ability to use this technology only in a limited set of ways, and then enforcing that. You do that through contractual mechanisms, but also through technical controls in the back end. So what do I mean by that? First of all, this is an API that we offer to do synthetic speech. we have set up what we call our limited access policy framework to access this higher risk type of service. And that means that customers must apply to gain access. They must disclose what they're going to use it for. And there's only a certain set of customers will even allow to use that. And how do we, because we want to offer that technology to trusted customers, let's say. So in order to access that kind of technology, you need to be a managed customer of ours, meaning you need to have an assigned account executive who works with you and has touch points with you multiple times throughout the year. You also need to, again, disclose through the sign-up form what you're going to use it for. And then technically, how do we deal with consent, for example, and the like? So at a broad level, it's tough to go into in a short period of time how we do that. But at a broad level, what we're saying is, hey, you have to provide a snippet of your speech to train the model to then generate the ability to generalize out through other types of text to be able to speak it. To do that, you need to provide written documented consent from the voice talent, and to avoid the chance of someone using a spoofed voice, let's say, we actually use a speaker recognition technology. So a person provides a sample voice snippet that they have to read from something we provide them. And then we use our speaker recognition technology to verify that person is the same voice through their biometric identifier. And then we have controls, importantly, and this applies for any type of AI technology or product that we offer, controls on the back end to respond to any complaints, incidents, feedback. They have to annually reattest to their use cases, and we're monitoring where we can on any types of incidents reported. That kind of model is something that we do for all of our systems under our responsible AI standard. I'll also provide a link to that, which we share publicly. That is our internal set of rules at Microsoft that our product teams must meet to deploy AI responsibly, and think of as an internal policy and governance mechanism. I will stop there. I'll put some stuff in the chat, and then I'm happy to go on to Q&A. I don't want to take up too much time. Thank you,
Daniel. No, I'm glad. I like how you say that there is not silver bullet for this, you know. Instead, there is a combination of multiple processes and practices that you are implemented to kind of mitigate the potential risks. So thank you again. And before giving the floor to Joaquina, I would like to remember to all our participants to put any questions that you would like to ask at the end of the session in the Q&A session bottom at the bottom of your screen. And yeah, feel free to give us, put there any question that you have. So now, Joaquina, please go ahead. Yes. And you have the floor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's a pleasure as well to be here with you. I'm going to share some slides for the messages that I wanted to share with you all today, and for the conversation that we are having. Let me see. Yes. So well, as Daniel was saying, generative AI, well, it's a specific, or it's a type of artificial intelligence, no, that can create content, but can also do some other tasks, as Daniel was saying, such as answer questions, summarize, etc. And obviously, if we look for a specific application of generative AI, we can find examples, and we have done a kind of summary of the opportunities that we see across governments, companies, society. But obviously, also generative AI comes to complement the AI toolkit, no? So sometimes we will use it as a standalone, but many others in combination with other AI techniques, no? So to mention some of those opportunities that we see, and that probably you have read, no? For governments, they can have a real opportunity to improve all public services they offer through their digital channels, and it can help on the digital transformation that they are doing, and obviously also to streamline different economic sectors. For companies, obviously, well, it can help a lot in work and processes optimization. Really, it could freeze up workers' time and help us to really focus on more creative and tasks that are more of value. It can really drive competitiveness, even to create new products or services to increase innovation. No? And also, obviously, for society, as Daniel was saying, there is a very a component of democratization. So really, if we look at it in terms of opportunities, well, there are opportunities for people to use these public services in a more efficient way. Also, we believe that this type of technology can help in giving better access for people, maybe even for more vulnerable groups, to education and information, really. And if we had to summarize as this kind of more general view, we believe that generative AI is really something that will help us speed up digital transformation, because it impacts a lot in those business processes optimization in many things. So it can drive competitiveness, innovation, and as I was saying, also kind of this technological literacy or this more democratization side, of this technology. And if we talk a bit about our experience with generative AI from Telefonica, I wanted to highlight kind of 3 big ideas. There is, well, we are exploring, I think as everybody else, we are exploring the use cases using generative AI. There are many ideas that we are having that I can comment later briefly. But also, as we were saying, this needs to come together with a responsible and an AI ethics approach. And we have a methodology in place in Telefonica that I also will comment very briefly. And the third thing that I think is important is to work on information to employees. So same as, I mean, we can explain the potential and the opportunities that this technology holds, but also we need to give some guidance to them because of the risks that can bring. No, so I think there is a matter of training and people to employees, giving guidance on how to make the most of this technology, but in a responsible way. So if we go to talk about some ideas about these opportunities or this exploration of use cases that we are doing, and that probably many other companies are thinking about. Obviously, we can do a lot in the marketing and personalization of experiences, because we can use generative AI to create content that is customized for specific customers. We can also use generative AI a lot, as I was saying, in business process optimization. So there are many examples that we are thinking about in terms of, for instance, using it to develop sales pitch, also to summarize reports, to help create, for instance, requests for proposals for providers, even to use it, creating, for instance, chatbot that can help us in answering questions in relation to regulations that we might have internally. So there are a lot of thoughts in that area that we are thinking about using generative AI. Also, obviously, there's all the customer service, customer care part in which really generative AI could help us in, for instance, making summaries of calls that we have with customers to then perform data analytics. Also, we can classify and tag data also to understand more what the interactions with our customers, even to deploy virtual agents in an easier way. And also the last group of things that we are also looking at and that people are talking about is how we can use it in the coding and data management, no? Because also, as Daniel was saying, we can generate code in an automatic way. We can also generate synthetic data for models, and even perform this analytics through natural language processing. So we believe that there are many opportunities, and we are in the exploration of those use cases and how to implement them. And then regarding the responsible approach that it needs to come with it, probably we have already shared a bit of this, but just very briefly, we have a methodology in place. We have our principles that help us guide all the work that we do. And then we have been working in having a governance model in which our product owners, developing or using products with artificial intelligence, need to go through a process of answering a self-assessment questionnaire in which they can think of all the different topics that they need to take into account to make sure that we are doing a responsible use. And then we are using a figure that is the right champions that really help in each of these areas to propagate this responsible approach. And also we have an AI ethics committee that we can escalate the risk that we see. And really for generative AI, although there can be specificities with the model that we have in place, we believe that we can identify the possible risks and implement the actions that we need. Well, this is just the path that we have followed to become where we are now. And we are also developing an internal regulation based on the pilot that we have done and this evaluation of different products, also to incorporate what the regulation, the European regulation is going to say when it is approved. And just to finish on the note that I was mentioning about guiding our employees in the use of this technology, we are working in guidelines. So we make sure that there is obviously non-malicious use of this technology, that we are taking care of intellectual property rights and also appropriate use of all of this. Also that all the internal regulation that we have on privacy and security is also taken into account when we use this type of technology, and that we care about the confidential information, personal data, or even company or client information that we might be sharing with generative AI tools, and also obviously with transparency of the use that we are doing and responsibility that the tools that we are using. Obviously, we are working in having our internal environments where we can use these solutions in a safe way. But we believe that it is necessary to also work on that side of giving guidelines to employees. And that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquina, and I'm glad you made an introduction to Angel's conversation, talking about the principles and the guidelines and how to try to mitigate those potential challenges. No? So I'll happy to pass the floor to Angel.
Thank you very much, Natalia. It's a pleasure to share the panel with Joaquina, with Daniel, and probably be the bad cop. As we were mentioning, Daniel and Joaquina made a very nice setting of the technicalities, some of the technicalities of AI and generative AI, and the potential it has for our economies, our societies. And now is the turn to make sure that the governance of AI turns this technology into a tool that is strong, powerful, but also sustainable. So I will focus on this bit of the economics and mostly on the policy side, but I think it will complement quite well with the previous presentations. It's the first time I'm speaking here. I've been moderating this webinar, but it's really great to be able to share with you our views, because I mean, AI, we are in the age of AI. I mean, and it's impossible to overstate how powerful, how transformational, how tectonic the change that AI, and in particular generative AI, is going to have on our work and how we work, on education. And there are nice questions in the chat already for Microsoft and Telefonica on how we live, how we move, and how we relate with others. They are comparing actually generative AI with the movable printing press of Gutenberg 600 years ago. So this is not a lifetime change. This is a change in many lifetimes, what we are seeing now with a technology that economists we call general purpose technology, because now it's not a sector, it's not a tool, it's really all around, all over the place. Just to put an economics figure, McKinsey recently released a research piece saying that generative AI can contribute to the world economy $1 United Kingdom every year, and that is between $3 and $4 trillion because of its development, but more importantly because of its use in all sectors. And this is the type of things that we need also in Latin America. Now we are having so many attendants from the region, because we need new engines of growth that are sustainable, and this can be. Obviously, I'm the bad cop. I'm the one speaking a bit about rules, regulation, and guidelines. As it is, AI can reproduce and even can amplify the inequalities, the gaps, the challenges that we have in our societies. No, first and foremost, still half of the population in the world is not connected, so they cannot access these great tools that Microsoft, Telefonica, and others are developing. 1/3 in Latin America is lacking a proper, decent, high-speed internet connection. Also, in terms of challenges, this market is too concentrated. 80% of all developments are concentrated in the US and China. And we know that developers, even doing the best they can, end up reproducing or placing some of their interests and their biases and their way of being into the tools, because this is, as they said here, is artificial intelligence, but is also intelligence at the distance, because there were some engineers at some distance that reproduced and designed these tools. So it's inteligencia artificial and inteligencia a la distancia. This is the former president of Uruguay, Sanguinetti, who said it yesterday when we were meeting. So market concentration is another challenge, and the other one is AI itself. It's important that teams, and I know for a fact that our partners here in this call have diverse teams. That is meaning that diverse in terms of age, of gender, socioeconomic background, say, regional origin is important. This diverse team, but also databases that are representative, and also algorithms that are not either black boxes or lockers. This should be open, explanatory, explainable boxes at least. So that's why from 3-4 years ago, UNESCO has been working with the private sector and with governments, posing one basic question: who should be in charge? Because obviously this is too important just to leave it alone. Indeed, the self-regulation and the proactivity of companies is a crucial ingredient. I was noting here these tools that Microsoft developed, identifying users of their tools and identifying or at least disclosing which will be the uses of AI is really important. It's not always the case that this is happening. No? Or the guidelines for employees that Joaquina mentioned for Telefonica. Many times we have in our companies or in organizations people that use ChatGPT or the others, and they say, I didn't know that if I put that data here, the data suddenly doesn't just belong to me. So it's important to train users, and these two particular examples I think are very good practices for the proactivity. But from UNESCO, we think this is not enough. From UNESCO, we think that we need national, strong public institutions that are able to supervise and to regulate and to check that the implementation of generative AI is done in a proper way, rules, and also capable labor force, both in the public sector and also at companies where they are being implemented and developed. This is just implementing the 2021 UNESCO recommendation approved by 193 countries, plus the US, because the US decided to come back to UNESCO in part because of the relevant work that this body of United Nations have been doing. Why foundation models and why generative AI is making such a splash? Obviously, the fact that they are so easy to use is changing a lot for those who are working on AI. Probably generative AI on text is not even the biggest thing in the toolbox, but is one of the most visible ones. And here, the main analysis from UNESCO on this generative AI issue is the fact that they might be making some of the challenges that we already knew for AI even more urgent to be solved. Number one, the quality of data. We know that we need for developing AI quality data that is complete and that is transparent. This is even more the case in generative AI, which is producing results that are not 100% just based on the data. It was trained on data, but they generate new input. So that's why it's so important to be able to verify and to identify the sources of data that are used and that were used to train the models, and to make sure that we don't end up producing or even increasing the disinformation and misinformation that some platforms have been not promoting, but really affected by. Number two is the labor market impact. And here, let me start by the good news. I mean, generative AI, not only for training, but also for working, is a great tool for democratize the access to knowledge and digital services. By no means we can overstate that. And the fact that we might be doing even a summary of this event just live and just revise the notes, or the fact that we might end up writing hyper sharp while we are struggling a bit when we do it on our own, or the fact that we might be even composing some creative art based on these tools is amazing, no? But obviously, again, there are still some unconnected segments of our population that are outside this revolution. It's important to address that part. And the other one is the capabilities. Here, the funny thing, if you allow me, is that generative AI is impacting us. No? When software arrived, it impacted, let's say, low to middle skill workers. When robots arrived, well, it impacted, let's say, middle skilled workers as well. We thought we were different, right? We thought we were doing so creative, high elevated things that we will have an edge all the time versus technology. Well, guys, this is not the case anymore. So it's happening to us. And if we were giving advice to low and middle skill workers that they have to upskill, train, learn to use technologies, this is also the message for, let's say, the white collar workers and the high level paid workers in our companies and in our governments. This is a new tool, this is new thing, so we have to invest and invest and invest in skills. This is crucial. And last but not least, the issue of responsibility. It's not that the generative AI tool has its own, let's say, personality and its own legal responsibility. It's the developers and the users, so it's important to make sure who is responsible for what, and that's why I think the disclosure forms that Daniel was mentioning at the beginning is so important. Let me add just a fourth caveat, and this is environment. Training these form models is hugely energy intensive. I was reading the latest Stanford report, and it said that just training one of the latest one, Bloom's, one of the latest generative AI models, was like flying one of us from New York to San Francisco, where I'm virtually in this presentation 25 times. So that's how energy intensive and it is. So it's important that we choose to use AI and generative AI when we know that the cost benefit analysis, including environmental footprint, is worthwhile. And secondly, we establish the measures to mitigate and to compensate for those. No? So just to conclude, it's not the time for pauses, for the pause that some are claiming. We think from UNESCO that it's not the time either for catastrophic letters saying that this is like the next nuclear atomic bomb. AI and generative AI is a force of good, but it's so strong, the force is so big that the urgency of the policy agenda is urgent as never. No? So implementing UNESCO recommendation to make sure that the data with which we have been training models is complete and is verifiable, and we can verify that the sources of that data is crucial. It's important to invest in skills for the workers to adapt and to make sure that we thrive. And some are saying that can be the case, and also the issue of responsibility. Let's work together. The good news is that we are working together, UNESCO, Microsoft, and Telefonica in this business council. We will do more, we can be more. Maybe we can be more with some Bay Area guys who are also in this business, but we are very happy that we are collaborating so proactively, and we are very happy also to see that the participants are staying online. So hopefully we'll have a very lively debate. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Angel, and thank you for starting the discussion in a very positive but cautious note on how to keep working together in this generative AI evolution. So I would like to invite again participants to add their questions to the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and to leave us any comments and questions that you have there as well. So I would like to start a conversation with a couple of questions for Daniel, Joaquina, and Angel as well. Thinking about that potential and that message too, we cannot stop here. We need to keep leveraging the power of generative AI. So I would like to start with Daniel, asking you how or what do you think are the biggest opportunities from Microsoft, or what Microsoft thinks about generative AI to address some of the world's most pressing issues, challenges, and problems that we are facing now. And since you are developing a lot of multiple mechanisms to mitigate the potential risk of applying generative AI, how we can translate that to these potential problems in society.
Yeah, Natalia, I think it's a great question, and one that can go in a lot of different directions. It sort of speaks to the multi and dual use nature of these AI systems that we're in now. I think number one for me, I mentioned it earlier, is just improving or making it easier for people to engage with cutting edge, innovative technologies and that creative aspect that these generative systems afford. And I don't just mean creative in terms of expressing, which is also good for expressing, new versions of poetry and imagery and the like. Yes, but I really mean just this almost this personalization of AI systems in the sense of it being a companion. We call these generative AI systems at Microsoft and across our product stack co-pilots, and we say that for a reason because these generative AI tools, to me at least, are not, their real value is not in thinking of ways that they could replace a human. It's how they assist you in the tasks that and the unique sort of reasoning and cognitive capabilities that you as a human bring to the table in trying to analyze problems or solve issues. And that's your co-pilot there to assist you. And I think that's an important concept in thinking about these tools, and it kind of gets away from the generative AI is going to replace human beings across a wide swath of society. I think there will be labor force impacts. There's no doubt. I think we'd be foolish to say that there won't be. But I think if you look back at other technological breakthroughs and innovations across history, generally, the productivity of human beings and even across sectors, job growth and the like, grows in general. And we need to institute mechanisms across various sectors of society to ensure that that's the case here. Angel, you talked about skilling. I couldn't agree more. It is just so critical that people start to work with these tools and systems, and that we as Microsoft and a big sort of private sector player in this space, governments, civil society, all work to increase the ability for people to work with these systems. I'll add to the chat some of Microsoft's AI skilling initiatives and programs that we're working on and offering through grants, through working with educational institutions, nonprofit sector. There's a huge effort at Microsoft underway and across partners around the world in doing this. So I want to provide that resource for the audience here. I also noticed someone in the chat asked about working with the educational sector and teachers and researchers. Again, critically important. So important. Some of the commitments that we have made even recently in allowing for research access to AI systems, expanding and making investments in our programs there, working with the education sector from really elementary and middle school all the way up to secondary education. Again, is critical. We don't want to leave people or institutions behind in that respect. And I can provide examples if we want to go deeper on that, but I just wanted to double click on Angel, your mentions there. I think also when we talk about some of the biggest opportunities for me personally, environment and climate change. I think the potential to address climate issues through the combination of let's say sensors and remote sensors and satellite imagery and the like, and being able to analyze huge patterns of data across the Earth's surface, beneath the Earth's surface, predict weather events in this changing, rapidly changing climate that we're in. These AI systems are wonderful tools to try to get some headway there and really accelerate progress for our planet. So if I had to identify the areas that I think are the biggest opportunities, those are a few. Healthcare would be another.
Super. Thank you so much. I see we have a lot of questions in the chat. So I would like to ask you a quick question to Joaquina about what Telefonica also is doing, like similar question to what Daniel was just mentioned, but from Telefonica point of view, what you are doing in terms of, I don't know, advancing or using generative AI to advancing to the SDGs or like any other like societal impact. And then I will choose a couple of questions from the chat that are, some of them are super good questions. So Joaquina.
Okay, yes, thank you, Natalia. So yes, so we are, obviously there are some areas in which we believe we can impact in using generative AI, but not only generative AI, other types of artificial intelligence. And this is a lot in the sustainable and accessibility design, because we believe it can help us really in create content for this for the design of this of projects to be more sustainable, accessible for specific people that can have, for instance, disabilities or other types of accessibility requirements. We believe in that it can be of impact. Another topic would be also in the customer support and customer service, because as I was saying before, we believe that with generative AI, we can enhance this support to customers, also to facilitate work to our employees in customer service, and that would be impacted in one of the SDGs about work, etc. And then good health, etc. And then another topic I would highlight would be on the energy optimization side. And in fact, we are working already in some tool that can help us identify energy consumption and make some recommendation in the training of our algorithms. And well, perhaps at the beginning this can have a small impact, but summing up small impacts, then perhaps we can go bigger. And that is also the environment part that we believe that it can help with as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquina.
I'm gonna take, if you allow me, Natalia, there's a bunch of questions, so we will try to address some of them, and the others we can follow up obviously online. But there are three: one on Latin America, another one on the differences between countries and the different capabilities of the different countries, and the third one of winters and summers that I'm gonna try to address in a couple of minutes, so that I lighten a bit the workload of Daniela and Joaquina. Now, first and foremost, Latin America has been at the table, leading this from day one. I mean, all Latin American countries signed the recommendation in 2021. Were part of the discussion before that, of the 2 years discussion before that. And we are happy, we were happy that actually 11, 12 countries decided to be early adopters of the recommendation. In particular, right now, we are working with Brazil, Chile, Costa Rica, Uruguay, Dominican Republic, Antigua and Barbuda, and Barbados of Latin America and the Caribbean, with projects to be able to implement the UNESCO recommendation in 2023, 2024. A UNESCO recommendation to avoid just technocrat language is basically to make sure that the countries have the tools to make AI a good instrument for the public policies. And that's why moving to question number 2 is adapted to capabilities. We will be working with 40 plus countries, from European countries as the Netherlands to the global South, because this is an instrument in which we evaluate and we work with the countries to evaluate how prepared are their workforce in the public sector who are ruling and using AI in public policies. How adequate is the institutionality and the institutions that they have to supervise and to implement AI? Sometimes they have to create a new body. Sometimes the Ministry of Telecommunication or some agency is capable enough. So institutions as well. And 3, also rules and regulation. And this is country specific. For some countries, it will mean just to maybe reinforce, strengthen some of the laws that are already at Congress or even approved. for some others, this implementing the UNESCO recommendation is to help them design an AI strategy from scratch, even before implementing AI in their public policy. So that's why how we adapt to high-income economies, middle-income economies, and low-income economies. And the winter, the question is if we will be getting into a winter season of AI again, maybe because this heavy regulation. And this reminds me what we confront many times when we speak of regulation with some companies. Some companies tell us regulation will kill innovation. Well, it's not the case. We know that good regulation is good for businesses because it gives you certainty. Yeah. And what we are seeing also for some startups who have not the resources and the muscle of our partners in this call is that they are uncertain of what they can do, what they cannot do, so they don't dare. If you know which are the rules of the game, you dare even to take risks, and we know that taking risk is good for innovation. So actually, a winter might come if we don't have the proper governance of AI. If we say it right, we will live in a permanent summer if you like summer, or a permanent spring if you like spring. We want sustainability, and this is how and why we are working together as a public-private association.
Thanks, Angel. And we have just a couple minutes left, so I don't know if Joaquin or Daniel, you want to comment on that, or I can choose another question from the chat quickly about who are going to be the beneficiaries or the victims, or what is the role, or how we can prevent any impact on vulnerable populations when using this kind of generative AI. So I don't know if Daniel or Joaquina, you want to quickly answer.
Well, I think that, as Angel was saying, we need to work, and I believe there are programs in place to bridge that gap that there is of, for instance, connectivity, even connectivity or good connectivity. So I think we need to work on that basis, trying to reduce that gap, and then obviously in a lot of education and information and training, because then the possibilities that this might bring are really big, as we have seen. So that would be my take on it.
Yeah, and I know we're short on time, and I agree with both what Angel and Joaquina were saying there. I'll add to working with both government to government and private sector and civil society sector to government, of policymakers and regulatory bodies in across the world in an inclusive way, not just in the US and Europe and China. I think that's critically important. We're doing some work there through some of the work that Max has been leading with our Global Perspectives Initiative and fellowships and the like, to bring together and build community among policymakers and academics and civil society members across the globe, and not forgetting that. It's just so vitally important. And what we've learned is that the issues that are important in the New York Times or to people in Brussels may not be the most important issues to people in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, excuse me. And so thinking about that, and also the AI supply chain, not just at the model level, but across the supply chain and across the stack in terms of resources and environmental impacts for resources that are important for these AI systems, to infrastructure, and all the way up.
Thank you, Daniel.
And
yeah.
Just to reinforce, Natalia, just 30 seconds, linking two of the ideas. UNESCO is working with the G20, now chaired by India, but the next one will be Brazil, and the next one will be South Africa. So Global South big time, but impacting the global governance of the main issues. and we are working precisely on skills. So I think that's the way to go, and that's the commitment that obviously United Nations have to do it. We have to do it, and we like to do it with the private sector. So I would like just to thank our good allies here, and just give you back the screen, Dale, for the wrapping up.
Thank you. No, and I think, I mean, the time it's over, but I think it's a good way to close this conversation by also like highlighting the importance of this collaboration and having multiple stakeholders in the table, and like this cross-cutting knowledge collaboration and work. It's part of the solution and part of how we can manage and mitigate the risks in this generative AI field. So thank you again, Joaquina and Daniela and Angel, to be part of this webinar. We will have next webinar within the same console in September. We will share details in the next coming weeks. And yeah, thank you. It was an insightful conversation, and I hope you enjoyed, and thank you participants who joined today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.